Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Natalia Kuznetsova, and I'm heading this webinar today on behalf of BGS team. And we are glad to welcome you today to BGS webinar Linde and CEPSA, and their view on the steps to achieve decarbonization in Europe. You know that today many companies, many event organizers organize the webinars, but from our side, in contrast to many others in BGS group, we believe that everything that we do should be special. Therefore, we have decided to create a special platform where you will never hear the boring, long-lasting and technical presentations which had been presented before in the events. So we present you BGS Goes on Air series, which is a platform for the discussion and sharing the expertise. Here we are going to invite only those people who focus on issues at hand and can easily enter the discussion and adduce facts and in support of their arguments. So the audience, as you see during the webinar, you have an opportunity to ask any questions you would like. You should do it in the chat on the right side of the screen. So the speakers will see what you write and answer the questions. So please don't worry if it doesn't happen immediately. Sooner or later, the moderator of the discussion will raise your question. In case of any problem, in case of any technical issues with the webinar occurred, please solve it by pressing the reconnect button, like refresh the page. You can see it on the top of the screen. And in case it doesn't help, please check if the tabs with other websites are closed and the internet speed is good enough. So you can do it on the speedtest.net website. By the way, in 24 hours after the webinar, we will email you with the recording of the discussion. And as I promised, no long-lasting and boring presentations, and that is why I'm finishing my introduction part and I'm passing a word to our guests. Before that, let me introduce them first. So today we are glad to welcome Joachim von Schéele, who is a global director at Linde company, and also Miguel Calderón, who is carbon cycle director division at CEPSA company. So dear guests, dear participants, welcome to the webinar. And Joachim, the floor is yours. I'm passing the micro back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Natalia. Hi everyone, and it's a great pleasure to be here together with you and together with Miguel, of course, and to talk about this very interesting and important topic. And we will talk about oil and gas. I myself is from Linde. We are an industrial gases company, so I will have maybe slightly different aspects and perspectives on this than Miguel, who's coming from that business. And I should also say that I work a lot with these hard-to-abate industries myself, the steel and the cement and those industries that are also very much in the focal point for decarbonization. I lived in Asia for the past 10 years, past 5 of them in China, which is, of course, also very interesting when you talk about decarbonization with all the industries there and the interaction with Europe. So I came back to Europe last year, and I would say that every day, every hour of the day even, I think, since that time, I've been talking about decarbonization, I've been talking about energy, I've been talking about different fuels, hydrogen and what is going to happen in the future and how we can work with that. So that's where I'm coming from, and I find it very interesting now when looking into how we can see how we can do this decarbonization in Europe. I will try to both participate in the discussion and help a little bit more with the moderation. To be moderator as well, so it's not easy for a man to do 2 things in parallel. So bear with me if anything doesn't go that well. And I think that we will, look given this framework of decarbonization. What is it that is going to happen then in Europe? What is impacting the oil and gas industry in Europe, and how is Europe impacting the rest of the world? We should not forget neither. So that's how I would like to kick it off. But Miguel, Over to you for see how you view this in general, first of all.
Hello, thank you very much, Joaquin. Thank you very much to all of you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to contact with you today on this very interesting subject, as it is the decarbonization in Europe. As Joaquin has said, I am working in CEPSA. It's an oil and gas integrated company. It's a 150 years old company. And you know, we think that this decarbonization, not only for our company, I think for the whole Europe, even for the whole mankind, is one of the biggest challenge that we have in this moment. Probably is the biggest that we have to face. And the only one to solve it is with technology. There is no other way to solve it. So we need to focus on new technologies. We need to find new ideas, and we need to find new rules. And we need the support of everybody. It's not only the industry who has taken the role to impulse this decarbonization. All together, we have to work together in order to impulse the decarbonization. I used to compare the decarbonization with the coronavirus, and we have the experience. If everybody focus on the main subject, and if the main subject is decarbonization, money appears. If all the companies, all the governments, everybody works together, we can solve the challenge, but are going to require that everybody will be focused on this challenge. So if we have been able to solve this COVID pandemic in how much? 12, 15 months in Europe, at least in Europe, we have to do exactly the same way in the decarbonization. We have to put a focus, we have to put a goals, and we have to comply with these goals. And again, everything is about technology. Everything is about which is the right one, which is the right time, and how many resources, human resource and financial resource, we need to solve and to achieve our goals and to surpass this challenge. I think like introduction is enough.
Yeah, very good. So and I should, by the way, I should also say thank you to BGS for organizing this and inviting us. It's really great setup. And Miguel, you talk about that we need to do this together. So let's make sure that everyone also makes this discussion together. I really want to encourage everyone, because it's not about Miguel and myself.
Exactly.
We all together need to discuss this and focus on how we can make this kind of happen. Right. So the chat box is there, open. I very much encourage you and put your questions, put your comments, and so on and so forth. There was some prepared themes and questions, as you're seeing here, and the first one, if we start with that, to have a little bit of steering of it, how the oil and gas companies may approach the decarbonization pathway. I like pathway as a word. I like journey also. I mean, this is not going to happen overnight, right, Miguel?
Right.
They are, and probably also it's not a journey where there is one road that we go on. It might be multiple things happening at the same time, and maybe we talk about portfolios of solutions and so on. Miguel, how do you see that from the oil and gas companies' perspective as you work in that?
I think that in order to prepare this pathway, it's a very interesting pathway. We ahead of us, we have 30 years in order to obtain the net zero target. I think that the very first thing that we have to do is to have a good measure. If we don't measure the emissions, we cannot solve it. So the first thing is to have, it's critical for me to have a very good measure in our of our CO2 emissions in all the fields, in upstream and in downstream. Also, we have to have a very good technology radar. It's very important to know what is happening in the technology field, which technology are advancing, which technology are not advancing, which are faster, which are slower, and we have to choose which of them are going to be the first to help us. Also, we have to squeeze the technologies that we know and that we have been applying since the first oil crisis in 1975, and still we can squeeze these old technologies, not all, but good technologies that can still give results. And after that, we have to put a pathway, a reliable pathway with intermediate goals, with goals in, I would say, every 5 years, 2025, 2030, 2040, and 2050. Because if we don't have intermediate goals, it's very difficult to motivate the organizations. It's very difficult to motivate the society and the governments.
Yes.
So once you have your technology radar, once you make your strategic plan, once you arrive to the most convenient pathway for the oil and gas companies, the next thing is to put in practice, as we do in all our strategic plans. We have been done since ever, and now it's only to focus on decarbonization. I don't know, what do you think, Joaquin? Do you have any other suggestions?
A couple of thoughts. First of all, I agree. It's about putting roadmaps, concrete roadmaps, and
Exactly.
It's very nice with having a vision, but the visions that stretch 10 years or more, and a lot of people who are there deciding on those visions, they quickly retire before it's time to deliver.
That's true.
So we have to break it down in milestones on a roadmap, and as you said, how to measure emissions and so on, and using the existing technologies to improve the energy efficiency, because when we improve the energy efficiency, of course, we are reducing the carbon footprint from the process.
Exactly.
And another aspect from a sustainability point of view in general is that a lot of products at the end that comes out of the oil and gas industries, they have a rather short life cycle. So simply, if the average use of a product could be extended by 1 year, then we will save 1 year of CO2 emissions, so to speak, from a sector. So of course, that's not easy when you talk about combustion, but if you talk about plastics, for example. So I think that and that is not so much the industry, that is more us as individuals. If we could have a bit of shorter cycle in the turnover of the products, that's a way for us all. Again, back to that. It's about us all, how we also can contribute. But the first and simple things, as you say, I do agree 100%, how to measure it, break it down in the milestones, and focus on energy efficiency. We can easily, I've seen that in many other branches of industry, we can easily save 10-15% by energy efficiency.
Completely agree.
Without that, it costs.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that is some thoughts. Again, to the audience, most welcome if you have any great ideas.
Yeah. And another very interesting thing, Joaquin, I think it's very important to have quality review by a third party.
Yes.
It's not only we have designed this plan, we need to have a quality review from somebody else in order to help and to enrich the pathway, in order to gain credibility, because one of the things we have to do is to gain credibility. Small steps are going to help us to gain credibility.
And there is, of course, a connection to the governments and the legislation. Also, make sure that one is up to date, and then you have the auditing, a third-party auditing as well. Not at least important because we talk about how the consumers, how the investors and so are looking into the industries. So there is no doubt that we have a clear statement of the progress that can be documented according to the guidelines from governments and etc., and done by third parties. This is how we can objectively, transparently measure it, and this is very important for the credibility and to show the progress, of course. And I think there is a little bit more to do in that area, for sure, everywhere. But that's good. Mm-hmm. So connected to that, we spoke about it a bit, about the main levers here already. But could there be more things that when we talk about it? What do you say, Miguel?
I will say we have said in the previous question, but we can go a little bit more in depth. First, we have to squeeze the technology that has been proven and has given results in the last 50 years. So as you have said, energy efficiency initiative, for sure, to use only renewable power in our industrial sites. This is extremely important. Also to improve processes, catalysts, to improve equipments, new heat exchangers, new reactors, new distillation columns. We have many opportunities of technologies that we know very well that can help a lot. You have said 15%, completely agree that we can improve our energy efficiency and our CO2 emissions at least in a 15% using technologies that we know. And after, there is other technologies that are arriving. Biogas use, for sure electrification. And next, we have the big technologies that are going to require more CapEx, obviously, but green hydrogen has to be there. Capture has to be there. Conversion of CO2 with green hydrogen in order to produce e-fuels and e-chemicals. Recycle, as you have said, recycling is extremely important. So first, squeeze the technologies that we know. Second, to impulse the new technology that are arriving. As we have said, and we agree, you and me, this is not a silver bullet question. We don't have a silver technology that are going to solve everything. No, we need all the technologies. Again, if we go again to the COVID example, what do you prefer, Pfizer or Moderna? I don't mind. We need Pfizer, we need Moderna, we need Chinese vaccine, Russian vaccine, we need everything because the solution is not only one technology. The solution are going to be a portfolio of different technologies.
So yes, and again, so the first is of course to minimize the carbon or CO2 emissions in the existing equipment.
Exactly.
That is the first thing to do. Sometimes I get a feeling, at least from the media, that people jump to other solutions first instead of fixing the first thing, and then we deal with the things that remain, so to speak, and then there are different things to taking care of that, to start integrating hydrogen, biofuels, etc. into the equation. But first things first. I said that also when I talk about my friends in the steel industry, cement industry. Hey, what can we do with the things we have first? How can we squeeze that, as you said, Miguel?
Exactly.
And because instead of building big things to take care of CO2, make sure that we have as little as possible to take care of.
Exactly.
So I work with oxy-fuel technology, for example, and we are coming. We have a next question related to carbon capture and so. And if you combust something, typically you have a flue gas coming and you want to use that in a boiler or so. If you combust that with oxy-fuel instead of air fuel, first of all, you increase the energy efficiency of that. Second, the resulting volume, flue gas volume, will be only 25% of that.
Exactly.
So you have much less to take care of, and you have taken away you're taking away all that nitrogen, so you have a very high concentration of CO2. So it makes it much easier in the next step. And this is very nicely how things can fit, definitely. And I see there is a question here about the role of natural gas coming from Maria. I think we come back to that a little later. Because what do you think? We're touching now upon the carbon capture here, and I'll tell you, 30 years ago already was the first thing I heard about carbon capture and sequestration. And I talked to a gentleman at Statoil, and already at that time people started to talk about what to do with CO2. And he said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of all the CO2 that you have, and I do it for free. The only thing is that you need to bring it to me. And I will put it in the North Sea, and we are done."
Exactly.
But my impression is that throughout these 30 years, not so much has happened to carbon capture. I mean, I can fill in a bit more, but I wanted to hear your view there, Miguel.
I think that carbon capture are going to be a lever in order to obtain decarbonization. For sure, are going to be a very good lever. The problem is that we have to choose which are the right industry and the right stack to obtain the CO2. As you have said, it's very important that the CO2 concentration has to be as bigger as possible. Capture are not going to be a problem. The technology is there. It's expensive, but it's there. After we have to concentrate it, and there is different solution. Storage, but in Europe are going to be very difficult to obtain environmental permits for storage. Yes. We have examples in the North Sea, we have example in the North Europe, but in the rest of Europe are going to be very difficult to obtain environmental permits for storage. It's not in Europe, we are not still in the same mode that in the US. So we have to be a little bit more flexible to permit a storage inside of the European Union, because it doesn't make any sense to CO2 in Europe and to transport, as you have said, to other countries outside Europe. So we really have to be more flexible on storage. But for me, I think it's more important to work on the conversion. To work on the conversion of this CO2 with the green hydrogen in order to produce e-fuels and e-chemicals. I think it's much more, obviously are going to be very expensive, obviously are not going to be the solution for the next 5 years, but if we have to find solutions for 2040 and 2050, when we have a squeeze all the known technologies, I think carbon capture is the solution.
But carbon capture doesn't come for free. I mean, we talk about the cost per ton of CO2 of 50 euro, 60 euro, or something like that. I feel it's a little bit of defensive way, because we can also think about what can we do with this CO2 after we captured it. So just putting it into storage is can't we do anything better? And I come across quite a number of guys that are working with transforming CO2, also capture CO2. Of course, classically you would use CO2 in greenhouses or so, but isn't there also potential connection back to the chemical industry in terms of that you do gas fermentation, that you use bacteria and so on, and producing bioethanol, for example? How do you say that?
I think it's not for tomorrow, but we have to continue to research and to make industrial demos. And also, these are going to be very expensive technologies, Joachim. So I think that we have to work more than one company.
Yes.
At the same time, we have to make joint ventures.
there are some consortia in Belgium, for example, in Genk, together with ArcelorMittal in the steel industry, for example. We have our friends at BASF working together with LanzaTech in Chicago with the project where we ourselves are involved and so on. But it's on a rather small scale in the beginning, of course. But again, I feel that it's a much more constructive way than instead of just taking this CO2 to look upon it as a dangerous waste and try to put it away in a hole in the ground. Can't we transform it instead? Exactly. Do something good with it that is useful.
Exactly. Let's get value. Again, are going to be expensive. Nothing are going to be cheaper in the coming years. But at least we have to develop industrial demos in order to give credibility and to advance in this kind of technology. No other way.
And let's go a little bit to, we see questions about natural gas, about LNG and hydrogen here in the chat box there from Maria and from Alia. I've been in so many discussions and panels over the past year about hydrogen and so on, and not at least about the steel industry. And one thing that is obvious is that the biggest limitation for hydrogen production is the cost of hydrogen. And we have a cost of hydrogen in Europe that is at least 3 times higher than to make it a viable alternative, even considering a price of CO2 emissions that is €100 per ton. So it cannot come overnight without a tremendously high cost. And that cost for hydrogen is then under the assumption that we have a supply of green power, that we have green electricity, because otherwise if we have make the electricity from coal power and then use it for the electrolysis and make the hydrogen, it makes no sense at the end. And that green power is not there. So, I mean, without making anything lengthy about it, this is the vision, but it's not happening overnight. And if we look at the use of coal today, which is, of course, the biggest culprit here, can't we see a way here where natural gas could play quite a role over the coming 1, 2, maybe even 3 decades when we are trying to phase out the coal and getting a bigger scale up of green electricity supply that can make the hydrogen come in? How do you see that? I mean, this is how I would say about natural gas here.
I think that we all agree that natural gas is the perfect transition fuel. And for the next 2 or 3 decades, I think that natural gas are going to play a very important role on this energy transition.
But Miguel, you know, there's so many people, when I say this, they get angry with me.
Okay.
They get very angry because they say, no, you are still trapping us in the carbon society. With this.
No, but you know, we have seen with this acceleration of the last year, we cannot go directly to the green technologies because we have to develop, we have to develop renewables energy, and we have to develop renewable electricity, not only for the industry, but also for the transport, for the light transport. And we cannot do that from one day to the other. So we need a transition, as you have said. First, let's write off of the coal. Is the first step. Second, let's write off of fuel oils. Let's focus on the greener fossil combustible, and the greener fossil combustible is the natural gas because emissions are the lowest one. And other important thing, even if we have a huge park of renewable power energy production, they are not going to work for 24 hours, 7 days, because they are going to work when the sun is there and the wind is there. So we know it's more and more difficult to find solar fields and wind farms that are going to be able to surpass, let's say, 3,000 hours per year of operation. So we need a backup, because we don't have we don't have the storage capacity developed enough to make the society work during 12 hours per day. So we need a backup. And again, the backup is the LNG, the backup is the natural gas. So why not to use it in a backup? It's not passing from 0 to 100. We have seen in the last year, the acceleration doesn't make any sense, because we are going to cost huge amount of money.
Absolutely, and I mean, we see this is happening also in the industry. My friends at ArcelorMittal, for example, they plan to start injecting natural gas in their blast furnaces in Germany and Poland, for example, to reduce the carbon footprint there. But so looking at natural gas and including LNG, for sure it will have a role in this transition phase. So it will survive, no doubt about that. Even if some people come and get angry with me when I say that sometimes, because they are rigid. We need to get out of the car. But the question then is, will actually natural gas have a bigger role in the coming decades than what it has today in Europe? And in that case, do we have enough supply of natural gas, including LNG, in Europe, or will that have to be fixed as well?
Exactly. I cannot see how we are going to forget the natural gas in the next 2 or even 3 decades. We'll need it. And step by step, we have to eliminate coal, because still we are consuming a huge amount of coal that doesn't make any sense. We have to eliminate the fuel oils also, and we have to go step by step and increasing the role of the natural gas. Are we going to have enough capacity? If we go step by step, we are going to find a way to produce it and to find it. I think so.
But what will happen then? As I told initially, I lived for 5 years in China. China is an amazing country when it comes to getting things done. And they have decided to decarbonize, and they have 2030, and so they talk about the peak year in their consumption of energy, and then they will go down. And they will also use natural gas as an example. Everyone will use natural gas. And I remember when living in China, all what was going on with LNG terminals. And I was amazed, the other day I looked at the map over LNG terminals in the world. And they put red dots where those terminals are. And then I looked at China, and the whole coast of China is painted with red dots for LNG terminal. All the way, if you come from Hainan and Guangxi in the south and to Liaoning in the north, it is like a band of red dots. And that means that this is where they will take in all the LNG. So what will there be an LNG for Europe?
I don't know. Frankly speaking, I don't know. But if I really think that if we go step by step and the price increase, we had exactly the same problem in the first oil crisis. Do you remember? Everybody was telling us there is no enough oil for the next 10 years. After they said, there is only, it was in 1975. In 1919, they say, there is only oil for the next 10 years. So always, if we have the right price and the right demand, we are going to be able to find the right way to to produce more natural gas and to transport.
No, for sure. I mean, when you look at this,
and you have to not to forget. I'm sorry, Joachim, that renewables are coming up. So.
Yes.
So are going to be a balance,
It's going to be a balance.
It's not only that the natural gas has to take 100% of the lead. No, natural gas probably are going to take, let's say, 40, 50% of the lead, and after are going to decrease slowly. So I really think that as mankind, we have solved it in the past in 1975 with the first oil crisis. We are going to find a way to explore new natural gas wells and to obtain natural gas from wells that today are not profitable, that for sure are going to be profitable in the future.
Yes.
So, if we do that step by step, and again, it's not a single technology, it's not a single fuel. We have to use the whole portfolio: wind, solar, hydro, gas, natural gas. So we have a huge portfolio, and natural gas has not to take 100% of the protagonism. So I think we have. We are going to find a way.
Yeah, and I see you addressing quite a bit of Sophia's question there. I mean, I remember when looking at these reserves over production ratios for different things in the world, they tend to be rather constant, so to speak. I mean, you find more and more technologies develop. And of course, if we are expecting a bit higher natural gas prices, that creates a further driver as well. But at the end of the day, and then get rid of the coal and fuel oils, back to Sophia's question here, LNG will play a role, but it will not be only LNG. We got more tools in the toolbox
exactly
today at the same time, right? So we are optimistic, aren't we?
Yeah, we have solved it.
Yes, no, but I
50
think
years ago, so we are going to solve again it.
Yes. Looking at the questions, there was a question from Catalina regarding coal and steel. Yeah, you see what's going on there is that about 70% of the steel production in the world is done using as a basis the blast furnaces, where you use a lot of coal or coke practically, and about half of the world production is taking place in China. And in China, this has increased from practically nothing up to 1 billion tons, half of the world production in a little bit more than 20 years. So the alternative to that is to take care of scrap and remelt that. So China will now have a bigger supply of scrap, because after a certain cycle time, the material is coming back. So that will help. The other thing is that in the steel industry, they look very much into using actually natural gas and hydrogen to do the reduction work, to reduce the iron ore into iron and then to steel, where coal is doing the job today. So that is coming. About 5% of the world production is already doing these kind of things, and this is stepping up. But for sure, to Kathleen's question there, we will need steel. We will need a lot of steel. The same amount as today, and maybe more for the infrastructure, for pipelines, and not to mention, which I always tend to forget and think about afterwards, what is going to happen in Africa? Because it will be a growing population, much of infrastructure, and so on and so forth. We need steel. For that, we need steel for making the windmills. We need steel for the pipelines and so on. So we need to maintain that, but we need to turn it to a low carbon footprint. Much lower carbon footprint than we have. Exactly the same as for the oil, gas, chemical industries, same for the steel industries, of course. How do you say, we have a question here about the investments and renewables and LNG. If we kind of pour that into the pot and stir it, how would you? What other ingredients would you make in the stew there, Miguel? Would you say how to connect these things or make it work, or who should be the chef? Who should cook this stew?
I think that if the governments let the market work, I think the market are going to be able to solve the things. Obviously, we need some support outside from the government, but I think the best thing is to permit the market works, because a market, it's plenty of ideas. We have plenty of ideas for solar, for wind farms. We have plenty of ideas from green hydrogen, for biofuels, from synthetic fuels. So just only permit the companies to develop their ideas. Let's help the companies to develop their ideas. Let's help them with the industrial demonstration. For me, are extremely important, and in this first step, to develop industrial demonstration plans and to help a little bit the companies or the group of companies to develop these industrial demos, because are going to be the first step in order to develop the coming technologies. And the melting pot, I don't know exactly which are going to be the formula, but what I am sure is that we are going to require all the technologies. I know that the market are going to be able to balance it depending on their profitability, depending on the technology maturity status. And I'm sure that the market are going to be able to prioritize the technologies and to make the pathway. We only need a little bit of help from governments in order to have clear regulations. Unfortunately, we don't have clear regulations. Also, we need help, at least in the first step of the development of these technologies. And also, we need the support of the society, because if we have problems when we want to revamp a dam, if we find problems when we want to install a wind farm, if we find problems when we want to develop a solar farm, we need to develop something. We cannot go again to the prehistoric times. We want to have washing machine, dryers, we want to have TVs, we want to have phones, and just only permit to develop the new ideas and to accelerate the permitting of these new ideas.
But if we look at Link from another perspective, what comes to my mind, and where we as a company are to some extent involved, we also see some kind of clusters and hubs where different types of energy is coming together, and on the other side, so to speak, a number of different uses are coming together. So it could be natural gas combined with clean hydrogen production.
Exactly.
You have a steel plant. You can use the hydrogen, some surplus hydrogen for trucks, for example, or for ships, because these tend to be located at the river or at the big port or something. And so it's a combination of things on both sides, both types of fuels, etc., energy, and a combination of uses. It's not one single line, maybe any longer.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And it's a great idea, as you have said, to have clusters, to have hydrogen valleys, and to connect these hydrogen valleys with existing infrastructures, with existing natural gas pipelines. Mixing natural gas and the clean hydrogen in the same pipeline. There is many opportunities. We have to be flexible, and we again this is a technology issue. So we will find a way to implement.
So and flexibility can also be as I view it. If we talk about, there can be blending in practice also. So we have mixtures of some biofuel with natural gas, and we top up the dish with a bit of hydrogen as well.
Exactly.
And that goes together. And
exactly.
we have to adopt some technologies maybe, but I don't think the technologies are the big problem here.
No, but it's the solution. Are not the problem, but at the end are one critical piece for the solution. I think so. Humble opinion.
And so, but this might. I put the slide here about changes. Is there a need for maybe for a little bit changed mindset, because we maybe are, we're thinking in terms of one production line, or we are serving one, but here is many things. We may be coming closer to a plate of spaghetti, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we maybe need to have a little bit more flexible thinking, and then over time, as the viability of hydrogen increases, we can put more and more hydrogen, and in this way we can, in a dynamic way, move forward and serve multiple purposes. It's my thought there.
And we need to be more flexible, Joachim, because if we are against nuclear, if we are against hydro, if we are against wind solar, if we are against sea wind power production, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We need to be flexible. The solar parks will require industrial soil. Wind generation will require these big wind turbines. And, nobody wants to have these wind turbines in their backyard. So it's extremely difficult. If the whole society are not change their mindset, if the whole society are not going to help us to impulse this new technology, these new technologies, or these new power and energy generation systems, we are not going to find the solution. You have spoken about carbon conversion. If we want to convert the CO2 with a green hydrogen, we need industrial soil. We need we need permitting in order to permit us to impulse the new industry. So it's a completely mindset of the whole society. It's not only let's close the refinery. Yes, you close the refinery, but where do you have the alternative, my friend?
No, I think this is is an absolute, extremely central question here, and because everyone wants to have green power, green electricity, but nobody wants to have to see the windmills, so to speak.
Exactly.
And I was in a panel discussion yesterday, and we talked about this type of things, and I think that we need to understand what is the alternative, and the alternative is a partial deindustrialization of Europe, because if we cannot produce those, have a good supply of renewable energy, and that might or might not include nuclear. If we can't have that, we cannot decarbonize certain industries like the steel industry. Okay, what is the alternative then? Well, then there are other places in the world, for example, Australia, Northern Africa, Brazil, where there is an abundant availability of cheap renewable energy, and they even have the raw material, in that case iron ore, and they will produce this kind of things, and then we will get those products from other places of the world, which might be okay. This everyone has to think about that themselves, but a simple consequence is that it would close down, at least partly, some of the main industries in Europe. So we have to tackle this in an integrated, holistic approach. We cannot have one without the other, as the saying goes, right? So if we want to decarbonize and keep our industries in Europe, we also need to when we look at the beautiful landscape and look at the sunshine and so on, we also need to accept that we might see a wind turbine as well, because otherwise we won't have it. That's for sure.
Exactly. We need, Joachim, we need good jobs for our students in Europe, even in Europe. So if we need good jobs, we need industry, because industry is innovation, industry is research and development, industry is impulsing the whole economy. If we cannot close the whole industry in Europe, this is not the solution, because we cannot set, let's go the industry to other continents. That's for me is not the solution, because industry is research, development, innovation, implementation, good jobs, good salaries, and good future for our daughters
and creating innovations. And we know that at least every job in that industry also supports the same or double amount of other jobs servicing that, and how many families are taking their living from it. It's big impact, of course. So sure, and tying that, we have a question. So we have questions also related to hydrogen, and something where I've been a lot involved. And you know, hydrogen, we talk about green hydrogen and blue hydrogen or pink hydrogen or purple hydrogen. I don't know how many colors.
All the colors.
Oh, no, it's the whole rainbow. But that is different types, and with different and we talk about green that should not have any carbon footprint, that is produced then by an electrolyzer. So we are splitting water with renewable energy, and then the flow gas coming out from its use is then water again. So that's beautiful. And then we have blue hydrogen, which is the traditional hydrogen, where it go from gray, that's another color, as we call it, and into blue, that we do that we strip off the CO2 from the production and do a carbon capture of it. So I can give my views. I think that if we want to go into a hydrogen society step by step, I think that we need both. So if you look at the production of clean hydrogen, which is then another way of describing green and blue and so together, that is very, very little of the total today. And so if we need to step up that, it means that we need to have a hydrogen supply capability that is a couple of 100 times bigger than what we have today when it comes to that. So we cannot take away the blue hydrogen. We would need that as well. We need, in the same fashion as we talk about that, we need all the tools in the toolbox in the transition period. I think that we will need a blue hydrogen as well, and getting used to it. So I think they will all play a role. And if I also may say about all these colors, I think at the end of the day, I'm not so sure that we will talk about different colors. We maybe talk about hydrogen, and then we have a declaration of the carbon footprint that could be zero, could be close to zero, etc., because as a consumer, we are interested in what is the total carbon footprint of the production chain for making that thing that I'm holding in my hands, you know. So even a blue and hydrogen can have a very positive impact on that, and it should not be discarded. So some thoughts on that. What do you say, Miguel?
No, for me, the obviously green and blue hydrogen are going to be a very excellent future energy tool. So we have to develop it. We have to develop it very, very early. Right now, we have to clearly invest on blue and green hydrogen in order to permit to develop the technology, because we know that all technologies requires time in order to achieve the maturity. So we have to begin as faster as possible. And as you have said, synergy is very easy with natural gas. So are not going to be 0 to 100. It could be 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and in a gradual way, we can begin to use the more and more hydrogen as combustible. So, hydrogen are going to be perfect for heavy vehicles, because electricity are going to be the solution for light vehicles, but not for heavy vehicles. Obviously, hydrogen are going to be the solution for our industry. Many industries are going to find the hydrogen as the perfect role in order to complete their energy transition. So again, it's clearly a future tool in order to solve our problems of heating in this planet.
Definitely, and again, I keep on repeating it when not only for the audience, also for myself, that it's not about one solution. It is about many solutions, and these can be joined. We talk about using natural gas in the transition, and it can be natural gas that contains 20% hydrogen. And that hydrogen could be blue, 15% blue hydrogen, 5% green hydrogen, etc. But we are creating a situation then that is better. It's better than what we have today. All in all, we are reducing the carbon footprint from this operation, whatever it is. And then we can go step by step and put in more and more green hydrogen, replacing the blue hydrogen, replacing the natural gas. But it's a journey. It's
exactly.
a transition. We talk about 2 or 3 decades. I mean, I must say, Javi, that I look forward to this amazing year 2030 when all these plans should be fulfilled. It will be the most dramatic year. I mean, I'm joking. Seriously speaking, of course, a lot of these targets will not be fulfilled. They are too stretched. They are too stretched. Yes. And instead, we need to break it down and get this stepwise intelligent implementation, have sober minds. It's good with the vision and so on. We understand that this needs to be done. We all support it, but we have to be very realistic and using our best capabilities together to move forward.
Exactly, and you know, the best way to achieve our goals is to do the first step today. So as faster as we began, as easier are going to achieve our goals.
Exactly, because as you didn't do it yesterday, at least you have to do it today, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Exactly. Miguel, thank you very much.
Thank you to you. You are an excellent moderator. Thank you very much. It's unbelievable. I think it has been a very interesting conversation. A very interesting conversation. I hope that the rest of attendees find interest in this conversation.
Yes, and you know, we are coming to an end. We need to have a hard stop in 2 minutes. But still, if there are any questions, and so you're most welcome. And I mean, I think I can speak for Miguel as well. We are available. We are happy to chat. We are happy to discuss. And going back to what was said initially by Miguel, this is something we do together, right? This is a journey we do together. So I mean, absolutely happy to discuss further and so on. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Thank you very much, Joachim.
And thank you so much, Natalia. I'm handing it back to you. Thank you for organizing this wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. I hope that it was appreciated.
Great, wonderful, Joachim. Many thanks, Miguel and Joachim. It was really wonderful moderation. It was really wonderful discussion and conversation about very endless topic. I have enjoyed, and I think the audience has also enjoyed at the same level as we have enjoyed this webinar. So many thanks for your attention, dear audience also. And also on the right side of the screen right now, you can see the feedback form where you can leave the thoughts about the topics and also say thanks to the participants, to the presenters right now. And at this moment of time, I will tell you that the same topic, decarbonization in LNG industry, will be also covered as one of the most important topics at our LNG Congress, LNG Con, in Düsseldorf, 28-30th of March next year. So please join us on the discussion and on the conversation, and see you already very fast on the next BGS webinar. Many thanks and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you very much, Natalia. Thank you, Joachim. Let's stay in contact.